Hey, all, Grillo here. Man, I'm feeling all nostalgic at the moment. We were just chatting in Discord and we got on the topic of Linux, and one thing led to another, and I started sharing some pics of myself back in 1999 at the Linux World Expo in New York City. I had the chance to shoot a game of pool with Linus Torvalds there. For anybody who doesn't know, he's the creator of Linux. And I'm not trying to name drop or anything. There is a 0% chance this dude remembers me at all. But it was still a very fond memory for me. I was doing some cool open source work at the time with some great people, and I was just so damn young comparatively. And just fun times. I think I won the game, by the way, but I could be misremembering that. I'm not sure. If you haven't joined Discord yet, I encourage you to do so. Head on over to unhinged.gg. Follow the link to Discord. Easy peasy. There will be a link to that in the description below too. Also, before we dig into today's topic, a reminder that I'm doing the AMA soon, the Ask Me Anything video. We have about enough of questions to do that now, so if you want to get yours in, do it soon. You'll find a link to the YouTube community post where you can ask that question in the description below. I'm looking forward to it. That should be fun. So today I want to chat about something I've heard a lot that has me scratching my head, and that is CIG is not incentivized to release the game. They're killing on ship sales, so why would they? And this relates to a few other videos I've put out and to some of the comments in those videos. I put out a video before the IAE shows in which we discussed why are games like Star Citizen and Ashes of Creation taking forever. And I put out a video before that in which we dove into what the data center might look like that will power Star Citizen 1.0. And in that video, we did some kind of back of the napkin math and came up with some cost estimations. And in the comments, a lot of people were asking, like, how are they going to pay for this? Like, what could the funding model look like? Will the server cost alone sink this game, or do the server cost alone prove that this game can never happen? All kinds of stuff. If you haven't checked these videos out, I encourage you to do so. It'll give you more context for this video, and it'll help me, so appreciate it. Anyway, back to CIG not being incentivized to release the game. I find this especially curious right now as IAE is wrapping up, and folks, often the same ones that were saying they're not incentivized, are now waving the doom flag because it looks like the funding model has slipped, and the funding has actually decreased a little year over year in 2024. And I'm starting to see stuff about they're laying off again, and people are trying to make connections. And by the way, like, I think they laid off like 11 or 12 people. It's not a lot. The open job positions on their website is more than that. It's like 60 people, as you can see here. So I don't think we should be jumping to conclusions. Sometimes people just aren't great at their jobs, or positions get eliminated for one reason or another. You know, strategy changes, whatever. So anyway, which is it? Are they doomed because the funding is draining out? Or are they not incentivized to ship because they're making so damn much money on ship sales? I'm confused. Seems to me it can only be one. I think the reality is there's a bit of truth wrapped up in all of these angles, with a heaping pile of dramatization surrounding it. First of all, with new citizens down, according to this chart, 30% year over year, it's no surprise to me that there's a dip in pledge income. I'm actually more surprised that there wasn't a dip last year, because last year it was down 22%, but funding was up. If you look at these graphs together, I kind of overlaid one over top of the other here. You can see some correlation, right? And the recent move looks a lot less surprising. Like if you look back in all the way in the beginning, the colored bar, by the way, is pledge income that year. And the grayscale bar is the number of, like, is how many citizens were added that year. And so you can see, like, in the beginning, like, tremendous citizen growth year over year started kind of pulling the pledge income up. But you can also see, like, the new citizen growth in 2017 was dramatically less than new citizen growth in 2016, and also in 2017 pledge income dropped a little bit. So there's a lot of correlation between new citizen growth and pledge income here. And so that trend continues and continues. You can see every year new citizen growth kept getting bigger and bigger all the way up until 2022 before it started falling again in 2023 and 2024. So the fact that, like, whatever momentum it had on the pledge income kind of continued past 2022 into 2023, that's the part that surprises me a little bit. But it doesn't surprise me if we do see a dip in pledge income this year, as the new citizen growth has actually been slowing down for 2 years now. So why are new players, why are we getting fewer new citizens the last 2 years? And I'm not an expert on these things. I'm just an observer, right? So don't just take my word as gospel here. Do your own research. But my money would be on the fact that not much has changed in the past 2 years. At least not much that you can, like, market and build hype up around. You know, we got some big new features in 2022, and a lot of new citizens that year. But since then, it's been a lot of kind of under the hood work and, you know, foundation renovations. Not stuff that's going to look like sexy or really appeal to like the masses and just draw in new waves of players. And so it's not surprising to me that new citizens are down year over year either. Add to that, there's just a market size for CIG's product at this point, just like with all products, right? Like, it's why Facebook measures their users in the billions, and Netflix measures their users in the millions. It's like only so many users are going to want to subscribe to Netflix. There's going to be far more users that want to subscribe to Facebook or use Facebook. And I don't know what the market size is for CIG, but, like, how many people are interested in an alpha space MMO that's $45 to get into, and with, you know, all the problems that it has? And of that maximum possibly interested people, like, what percentage has CIG already captured, right? Like the more of that market they capture, like, the harder it's going to be to capture more of that market. For perspective on this, EVE Online had, I'm using EVE here because it's another space MMO. No other reason other than that. It's one of the more popular ones that I know of. But EVE Online had like 10 million total players over its lifetime. In 2022, Star Citizen had 4 million accounts, 1.8 million backers. They defined backers that year as the number of accounts that had actually bought into the game. And like 1 million people played that year. That was all in the letter from the chairman or CEO or whatever they call it that Chris Robertson put out. He included those numbers that year, which is why I'm using 2022. If you fast forward to 2024, according to this chart on the screen, they were up to like 5.5 million accounts. So if the ratio to accounts to backers stayed the same over those 2 years, we would be at like 2.5 million backers at this point. But they haven't published those numbers, so we don't know that for sure. Now, CIG can kind of raise the bar and raise the maximum number of interested people in this game just by improving the state of the alpha, right? They don't have to ship the game. They just have to keep improving the state of the game. Adding features, making it more stable. Just as like, we were talking about Netflix, but just as Netflix can, right? Like, if Netflix hits a new show out of the park, their subscribers are going to tick up because they're kind of raising how many people might possibly be interested in the service. Like maybe someone who was not interested in the service at all before, they now see previews of this new show somewhere and they're like, oh, or they hear a friend talking about it and they're like, oh my gosh, I got to have Netflix. I've never had it before, but now I need it. So just in the same way that like Netflix can increase its potential base of users, like CIG can do the same by adding features, adding stability, adding playability. And so back to the matter at hand, like this all very much sounds to me like funding is aligned with improving the state of the game, right? Which is aligned with moving toward a release. Now keep in mind that the first thing to be released is going to be Squadron 42, which is going to be an enormous surge in funding. And I very much suspect that CIG will want the MMO in a pretty good position to capture a lot of the attention that's going to be incoming as a result of the launch of Squadron 42. Right? If they can arrange for Star Citizen, the MMO, to be in a relatively playable state, they stand to really amplify the funding surge that's going to come from a Squadron 42 release by also converting those sales into Star Citizen pledges. This sounds like a lot of incentive to me to move the game in the direction of release. I don't know how it sounds to you. If you think I'm off base here, drop me a comment because I would love to hear the others, another perspective on this. Now, I'd go so far as to believe that CIG would delay Squadron 42 if it had to ensure that this is the situation they find themselves in. Now, I don't know that, but it sure would not surprise me. If I were in CR's shoes and, you know, I still had a pretty flaky Star Citizen MMO in 2026, but I thought to myself, like, man, I'm 6 to 9 months out from this being just a really solid experience, even if it's not released, right? Even if it's maybe I find myself in a position where I think I could apply the beta moniker in 6 to 9 months. Like Squadron 42 is ready to go, but if I wait another 6 to 9 months, I could have the MMO in a beta feature with real playability, or I'm sorry, a beta status with like real playability. If it were me, I would delay Squadron 42 in that case. Seems like a no-brainer. This would be a huge miss, if not. Okay. So let's assume that this all goes according to plan. And let's get back to the questions that were on that networking cost video, right? Will CIG drown in server costs? To answer all those questions that were kind of along those lines, just a real quick, I doubt it. I'm not even a marketing or business guy, but I cannot stop thinking of ways that they could monetize this game. And I'm not talking about shitty ways either. Obviously, they could do that. You know, there's a lot of people asking, like, are ship sales going to continue indefinitely? You know, how many pay-to-win features are we going to bring into the game? Like, look, like, I'm talking about ways that could increase immersion, not detract from it. I'm talking about cosmetics, privileges, maybe, things that would not impact gameplay. I have some ideas. Let's talk about them. And I would love to hear your ideas. Like, if you have ideas on ways they could monetize Star Citizen in a player-friendly way, or even a crappy way, just drop some comments. I'd love to hear it. So in no particular order, well, maybe. I'm going to order this maybe in the order that I'm most excited about, like if they would do this. I know it sounds crazy, like why would anybody get excited about monetization of their game or funding, but hear me out. Number one for me, renting ad space. Let that sink in. This is I think my favorite. How many orgs out there would pay to have like a join such and such today, like digital billboard in the center of Area 18 or New Babbage, or along the tram routes, or at jump points between Stan and Pyro? CIG could sell these ads for IRL money to help offset server costs, fund the game, profit. And I don't think it would detract from the game at all. It's not affecting gameplay. In fact, I think this would increase immersion. Like, it would kind of link the world to what's taking place in the world, or in the universe. I'm saying world. It's really going to link the universe, like, as they ship it, to like what the players are doing, right? Like, orgs are going to be popping up. Players are going to be plastering billboards about those orgs on them. You know, they're already showing concepts about like org art on vehicles and suits, which I'm totally excited about. It seems like a pretty short jump to me to go from like that to an electronic billboard in the game. And I think affluent players would want to take out ads too, not just orgs. Like, come visit Sparky's Fuel and Repair Depot. You know, maybe they couldn't compete with like the biggest orgs for the most like prime time, like well positioned billboards. But maybe, you know, you're traveling along the beaten path of a Planet and Pyro, and you see this sign out in the distance. Like, that would just be so cool. Like, not only would it be a funding model for CIG, but again, I feel like it would increase my immersion in the game, not detract from it. I'm not even sure how to estimate the potential revenue for something like this. If somebody out there is like an expert marketing finance person, drop me a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on something like this. But it sure feels to me like it could be significant. Like, there's so much space in the Star Citizen universe that it's a lot of ad space. I think a lot of players would be willing to pay something for it. All right, my number 2 idea: luxury living. Rent me a penthouse in New Babbage, preferably. I love New Babbage. I want like a penthouse on the top of like a tower overlooking the city, and, you know, watching it snow on the mountainside. I'd probably pay a sub for that. That's how crazy I am. But I think, well, it depends. If it wasn't, if it was reasonable, I would. I'm sure there's other people out there that would pay it no matter what. There's some pretty big whales in this game, but I appreciate them helping fund the game for what it's worth. Let me subscribe to in-game concierge services. This all falls under luxury living in my mind. Maybe I can get a cooler lounge at spaceports, or you know, maybe a little more convenience in those lounges. Maybe like there's some things closer together, so I don't have to want to run back and forth as much as if I'm not a luxury concierge member. Small little conveniences like that, or even just, you know, looking cool because you're in the cool lounge. Like, I think people would form a line at the door to pay for stuff like that. It's completely optional. You know, not forcing it on anybody, but I think it would generate a lot of revenue. Number 3 on my list might be a little more controversial: land tax. One problem with land claims is like how to deal with them if they go stale. Like, what if a player claims land in a game and then logs out forever? Right? PAX Day. I'm sure PAX Day is not the first, but, you know, I followed PAX Day, and I thought they had a cool approach where they monetize it. They plan on having a variable subscription to the game, kind of like choose your own subscription amount, and, you know, the more land you want to be able to claim, the higher your subscription fee is. Pretty ingenious in my mind, because it kind of solves the problems. You know, I think CIG could adopt a model like that. I think orgs would figure out a way to fund these taxes. Affluent players would fund them. So anyway, you might hate that idea, but I think, and that probably is straddling the line on pay to win. So, you know, number 4 on my list is a game subscription. I've heard that CIG said they would never do this, so it might just be off the table. Not sure if it's an option or not. It would make a lot of sense in my mind. I tend to prefer subscription games because I'd rather that than get nickel to dimed on, you know, some other things. But whatever. I see the point. If they promise not to do this, I see the point of holding them to that. And I think if they did do it, like, it should come with things that, like, you might otherwise need to pay for. Like, maybe a subscription comes with some amount of land, so you don't have to buy a land claim. But if you want extra land above and beyond, like, you know, the reasonable amount, then you would have to pay for it. Maybe it comes with a basic apartment if you subscribe instead of a luxury apartment. And maybe all the subscriptions are optional. Maybe it's like subscription tiers. Maybe you subscribe, do a basic subscription, you know, you get the basic amenities. If you do like a premier or a preeminent subscription, you get, you know, or a luxury subscription, like maybe you do get fancier cosmetics and fancier whatever. And then the last thing on my list is, of course, cosmetics. That's what everybody defaults to whenever they're thinking about ways to monetize a game. Yeah, makes sense to me. There's so many cosmetics that they could do in Star Citizen. You know, clothes, furniture. I mean, whatever. Decals, skins, obviously, for ships. There's a lot. We know cosmetics will sell like crazy. Other games have entirely funded themselves off the cosmetics alone. So if you combine the cosmetics in Star Citizen with some of these other things, I think, you know. And again, like I said, aside from the land tax, I don't think any of this would impact gameplay. But to me, they all sound like huge moneymakers. And I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I'm not thinking about too. I'd love to hear your ideas. Tell me them. Especially if you could think of more ingenious ways to fund the game, fund its cost, without interfering with gameplay. And especially bonus points if you can increase immersion, like I think the ad thing would. You know, I'm like you. I'm like everybody else. Like I'm trying to avoid the nasty pay to win shit. Like I don't even want ship sales to stay in the game forever. I think after 1.0, those should no longer be a thing. Like, I understand why they're needed now, but I think once the game matures to a point where some of these other funding models would make sense, like, I think we should get rid of the ship sales. Now, like I said, land tax, that could certainly be argued as pay to win. I see more pros than cons with it. Like I said, the big benefit is keeping land from going stale, or just from like people over provisioning it. Like if there's an in-game way of acquiring more land claims, like, you know, orcs get nuts and just claim like massive swaths of land, like way more than I could ever need. But like if there's an actual IRL financial tax associated with those land claims, I think orgs and large groups will be far more incentivized to only take what they need, maybe a little bit more. But I think that's another benefit of land tax, and especially premium land. Like, you don't want one or a small group gobbling up all the premium land or letting premium land go to waste. But again, I totally understand, like, if there's an opposite take on land tax. And again, I'm no marketer or business person, but a released, well-functioning 1.0 of Star Citizen feels like a gold mine to me. Even without some like horrible monetization model. I don't think it would have any problem covering the server costs and a hell of a lot more. Most importantly, you know, as as they get closer to releasing this game, and especially after it's released, like, the user counts are going to increase dramatically. And with drastically higher numbers of users comes a much higher potential for earnings. As you know, as we saw earlier when we were looking at those two graphs overlaid on top of each other, like, you could see the correlation of new users, more funding. Now, I'd love to get a whiteboard out and do some estimations on all these potential income sources and like compare like what we estimate could be made off these different sources with what the cost of the game is going to be, kind of like we did in the other video. But this is simply not my area of expertise. If it's your area of expertise, dude, drop us a comment. I'd love to hear some of your napkin math on this. I find this stuff interesting. The one thing I do know is that I am not aware of any greater incentive than a financial one when it comes to getting a business to do something. So it certainly seems to me like the incentives to ship a game instead of just selling ships, seems to me like those incentives are there. What do you think? Agree? Disagree? Tell me about it in the comments below. That's all I have for this video. I know this was a little different, a little more opinion than data-driven. We got a little bit of data in there, but that's the trajectory for that some questions take us on. I hope you enjoyed it all the same. Remember the AMA, you'll find the link below, and you'll hear from me on those questions very soon. I'm really looking forward to that. With all that said, take care all, and I will see you soon.